Dan Calcagno here again with another Torah study. This week's Torah portion is Metzora, which is translated as leper. And in chapters 13 and 14, we learn about what the priests were to do with someone who had leprosy. For example, the verse from which we get the name of this week's Torah portion, Leviticus 14:2, says, "This shall be the law of the person with leprosy on the day of his cleansing. Now he shall be brought to the priest." Now, it's translated as leprosy in many versions of the Bible, but this biblical condition, which is actually known as tzaraat in Hebrew, does not actually refer to what is known in modern times as leprosy. This biblical condition of tzaraat renders the sufferer ritually unclean, and these two chapters are filled with instructions for the priests regarding how they were to diagnose the condition, what they were to do with the sufferer, and how and when the sufferer could be declared ritually clean again. Interestingly, in the Gospel of Luke, we read about how Jesus healed a man who had this condition, and as a good Torah teacher, Jesus instructed him to go to the priest and let him examine you. Take along the offering required in the law of Moses for those who have been healed of leprosy. This will be a public testimony that you have been cleansed. So, the New Living Translation version gives us a much clearer understanding of what we're dealing with here. It says, "The following instructions are for those seeking ceremonial purification from a skin disease. Those who have been healed must be brought to the priest." And like the issue of a woman giving birth and being ritually unclean, which we read in last week's Torah portion, having this skin condition did not necessarily imply sinful behavior had occurred. However, this condition did render the person ritually unclean, and they would not be able to worship God at the temple until they were declared clean. However, without a temple, it would seem that these chapters have no relevance to us today. Same goes for what we read in chapter 15. There we learn about all kinds of different discharges that men and women are capable of and how they make us ritually unclean. Isn't that fun? If a person were to come into contact with any of these discharges, they would be ritually unclean and would not be able to draw near to God in His holy presence. Again, without a temple in Jerusalem, these instructions don't literally apply to us today. However, there is an allegorical way of understanding these chapters. Particularly, the ancient rabbis said that this skin condition of tzaraat could be likened to gossip and evil speech. Just like this skin condition easily could spread and produce ritually uncleanliness, gossip and evil speech easily spreads and produces all kinds of unrighteousness. So we must make sure that even when there is just a hint of gossip and evil speech among us, that we identify it and we do what we can to ensure that it goes away. It comes down to this, that if we are to commune with God, then we cannot be people who gossip and speak evil about others. And again, coming into contact with the discharges listed in chapter 15 does not imply sinful activity, but rather that the person has come into contact with something related to death in some way. Death and God's presence cannot mix. So the ritually unclean person would have to follow God's instructions in order to become ritually clean again, and only then would they be able to draw near to God in the temple. Again, without a temple, there is no practical application to these instructions. However, they do teach us that God wants us to be reminded just how incompatible we are with Him. And without His grace that He extends out to us, we wouldn't be able to be in relationship with Him. So as the writer to the Hebrews said, based upon the work of Jesus, who is the high priest of the priesthood of heaven, let's approach God with a sincere heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience. So what do you think about the allegorical application of these instructions in these chapters? Does it make sense that, on the one hand, being ritually unclean was something that literally applied in the days of the temple, but on the other hand, helps us now to see how we can be purified in the Messiah in order to draw near to God? Leave a comment and let me know what you think. And like this video by hitting thumbs up, and subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can watch more videos. And finally, visit messianicniagara.com for more Bible teaching and to support this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.